Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Welcome back to In the Side of the Storm, where we talk all things Cyclones. We are live from the AKC Marketing Studio with Andrew Downs and sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company out of Osceola, Iowa, and Dan Douglas with Green Beret Realty. I'm Dave Larson here with my Storm Team partner and Cyclone great, the legend, Marcus Fizer. Marcus, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Dave?
I'm doing good. Finally getting over this darn cold that all the kids keep passing around to everybody, including us old people. But I'm on the mend, and we have another legend on tonight, a name and face many of you may recognize from our Three Beards Media Old Man Strength podcast. About a year ago, I think you were on, Keith, but former Cyclone tight end who played for the Cyclones in the early to mid-'80s, 82 to 86? Is that right?
That's correct.
The Cy father himself, Keith Schrage. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Looking forward to it.
And Brent is out tonight. As many of us know, Malachi, his son, signed with Kansas University the other day. Is probably out there practicing his Rockhawk Jayhawk right now, but actually he's at this event. He was invited at the last minute at Chris Kindle Market at Principal Park, and really can't blame him. Great opportunity for Brent to put coaches' kolaches on display for the community. So he's at that, and we're here to talk Cyclones. So where should we get started? Should we talk a little football?
It's rock and roll. That seems to be
Absolutely.
the topic of the day.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started here. We are in the Big 12 championship game, facing off on Saturday at 11 o'clock. Kickoff against the Arizona State Sun. Are they still the Devils or Sun Devils?
I think they're still the Sun Devils.
Sun Devils.
Still Sun Devils.
And of course, that was a very frigid game on Saturday as well. I'm going to show a picture here. That's my son in the front row taking off his coat, and his mother and I immediately started to text him, "What are you doing? Because you're on TV. You're on the Jumbotron. You need to get your coat on. It's 20 degrees out." And he goes, "Dad, I'm fine." Obviously doesn't listen to either one of us.
We all would have done it.
Well, that's how they are. I mean, I gotta yell at my kids every single day when they're leaving out. You know, it gets to in the 50s in the mornings here now. So you got to throw in a little light jacket to break the little chill. But, you know, around about noon, it's getting back up to about 65, 70. So they feel like they don't need a coat leaving out of the house. So I get what you mean.
Hey, Keith, I want to pull you into this conversation because you played in the 80s and where there was basically a wind tunnel that just went through at that time Cyclone, but Jack Trice. There was no barriers in between there. At least now I feel like it really blocks a lot of the wind the way the current structure is set up. But back then, you didn't have that luxury. What was it like playing back then in the cold?
It was Cyclone Stadium for a reason. I mean, shit, that wind would come through. It was out of the north or south. It didn't matter. It was always windy. It was always windy, and it was a flipping wind tunnel every time we played. The bad part of that stadium was not the wind tunnel, but it was the asphalt that was protected by a very thin layer of fake grass that was absolutely brutal. There was no padding to it. It was, that indoor-outdoor carpet you can find at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. Take that and put it in your driveway, and then go dive on that for a while. That's what that was like, and it razor sharp. You would get grass burns or turf burns on your knees and shoulders and elbows and everything else. And son of a gun, that thing would be infected, and it was horrible.
So I'm in the stands. Oh yeah.
That's extremely annoying. Even like court burns. Like, I mean, it's not a bad, end of the world injury, but once you get them and then that skin, closes up and then you break it, horrible. It's like, man, you can feel your heart beating at that.
we had a guy that played basketball at Iowa State. I think it might have been Tom Peterson, maybe it was his name. And he was a forward, been about 85, 86. And he came out for football thinking he was done with his basketball eligibility, had one more year eligibility to participate in sports. He came out, we were in spring drills, and he slid and hit his hand on the turf, and his hand was just a blister and just rubbed raw. And he's like, I'm done. There is no more of this for me. I'm like, oh, you guys
like this every day.
Yeah, that's every day.
So he could have been Stevie Johnson before Stevie Johnson.
He was. He actually was. Yeah.
So back in those days, how did you stay warm? Because I'm up in the stands. I'm wearing 7 layers. I have one of those electronic heated vests to keep me warm, at least for half of the game. How did you stay warm back in the day? Or were you one of those tough guys that just went without a shirt and
no?
Nothing
first
underneath.
of all, I wasn't very damn good, so I was on the sidelines just watching. My goal really, as far as being a teammate and playing for the Iowa State Cyclones, was my goal was I'm just going to be the best damn teammate I could be. I was going to be in every drill that I could be in. I was going to give every bit the best look that I could get every single day in practice. And if I got my opportunity to play, I was going to do everything I could to do my very best at that moment. I played for a guy by the name of Ed Thomas up at Appleton Parkersburg. And Coach Thomas's philosophy was there is no position on the football team in any level that's not important. Every single person that's on a football team, from the manager to the head coach and everybody in between, has a specific role, and they need to fill that specific role. And I kind of think it's kind of funny. I look at this year's football team, and I'm at Iowa State, and I'm like, every single person has a role, and every single person steps up and does what they had to do. And I look at it. I'm gonna switch real quick here for you. I lived in Buffalo, and there was a guy by the name of Bobby Gahn, and Bobby Gahn had a radio show, and from noon to 2 every day he had a radio show. And on Thursdays, his radio show, he changed the name of it to Pissed Off Thursdays. And every day, on every Thursday, all he did was take calls in from people about what they were pissed off about. And I thought, what a freaking perfect day to be on this call and go, how the hell do you go 7-2, have the number 1 defense in the league, the number 4 offense in the league, the only team that has 2 receivers with over 1,000 yards, and you can't place one freaking guy on the first team? I'm pissed off about it, and I know that those guys are pissed off about it. That is fuel to their fire.
But to your point, it says a lot about the team approach.
Absolutely.
That everybody has a key role. Are we loaded with these superstars, number 1 draft pick or first round draft picks? I think we've got some individuals that will be playing in the NFL someday, but collectively, they truly are a team.
Absolutely. They all fill a role. And that's, but back to your point, that's where my philosophy was as a teammate. I'm going to do everything I can to be the very best person that I can be that day, very best teammate I could be. But on the sidelines, I tried to stay as warm as I could. You'd have your long sleeves on. We didn't have the gear that they have nowadays. I mean, you'd had like thermal underwear on, or you'd have gloves or whatever, but it didn't matter. With that wind come hawking through there, forget it. It was cold. It was cold.
It was another good game there. Ultimately, we ended up beating Kansas State. I think once we got that safety, I felt a little bit more comfortable, pulled out the 29-21 win against Kansas State. Then we had to go home and wait until that Houston game was over with BYU. Meanwhile, fans were out storming the field at Jack Trice singing Sweet Caroline. And it was somewhat funny that the announcer, the stadium announcer, was saying, "Okay, everybody, it's time to get off the field." Well, I thought that would have been a great opportunity. Just put up that BYU Houston game up on the TV screens and let us all hang out at Jack Trice watching the game.
Imagine if they'd have been selling beer there and watching it. You could sell beer and watch that game. We would have had a lot of money.
Well, and I imagine that Sukup end zone area was probably packed for this game because as cold as it was, I bet a lot of fans were seeking some shelter there.
Yeah. Have you sat in there?
I have not, no. I think I've walked in once, but it was more just to kind of tour and walk around, but I've not spent a lot of time in there.
It's a fun environment. And it's, I know it gets a lot of guff from a lot of people there where they go, look at the end zone is empty. The Sukup is this, the Sukup is that. These people pay a lot of money to sit in those seats, and I'm glad they do,
Yeah.
So
it certainly helps for that game experience now. Sure. So ended up being a 4-way tie for first place. It's us, obviously Arizona State, BYU, and then Colorado. And due to tiebreakers, we're the ones that get a chance to face off for a championship and what could be our very first Big 12 championship on Saturday. Any thoughts leading up into the game for both of you guys?
Marcus, go ahead. I've been talking a bunch already.
My thoughts are we're going to be the champions. I really felt good about this season coming in, even though the conference was, restructuring and bringing in more teams and things like that. And it has worked out for our favor. I knew we were a good ball club. I definitely didn't see, 7-0 going into 8-0. So that was a fun ride without a doubt. But we're here to compete. We're here to win these type of championships. Iowa State Cyclone football is not, a program that you're going to just come in and walk over on the road or at home. So I'm looking forward to this, game on Saturday. I've heard a couple of people say that, where I think we're 2-point underdogs or whatever the case may be. I don't know how true that is, but I think we're going to pull that one out.
Well, and Keith, you and I were talking before the game, last time we played in the Big 12 championship game was, or the very first time, obviously, 2020 COVID year against Oklahoma. I don't think that the point spread, I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think it was 2 or 2.5 for that game.
No, I think Oklahoma was like 10, weren't they? Something like that, 9 or 10?
Yeah, I believe so.
And we should have won that damn game. I mean,
yeah.
We were driving. Last week, I was talking to Mouse Saturday after the game, texting back and forth, and we were going back and forth about that game, and we should have won that game. And that horrible targeting call in the first play of the game, absolutely horrible, horrible. I'm gonna go a little different route with what I think about with the Big 12. To me, this Big 12 opportunity, I go back to guys like Marv Krakow, who's a tremendous friend of mine. And I think of Keith Krepley, and I think of Tom Bosky and Chris Bosky, and all these guys that every year, they're playing the number 1, number 2, number 3 Oklahoma, or number 1, number 2, number 3 Nebraska. And they never really could get over that hump. It was the Big 8 back in the day was a brutal track record to go through. Mm-hmm. And I think back to those guys and then playing with the guys like Carl Nelson and Bruce Reimers and just Keith Sims and just knowing that they all put forth that effort, they all put forth that time, and I truly believe that we got 120 kids that are taking that field with 60 years of other players behind them sitting on their shoulders going, we got your back. You know, I truly believe that they're playing for more than just what this is. I think they're playing for the last 60 years. I think they're playing for the guys from long ago. Unfortunately, Johnny Majors passed away and he's not able to see it. Johnny Majors loved Iowa State, probably second most to Tennessee. And I think he would love to have seen this situation take place.
You make a good point. Marcus, you were in a similar boat as this year's team. You know, your team came out of nowhere in 99 and 2000 and lit the world on fire. Did you feel like you were carrying on some of the history of prior Cyclone basketball teams?
No, without a doubt. And just like Keith was saying, these guys absolutely know that. They absolutely know and feel the history of what Iowa State Cyclones are, and the athletics are. And understanding that, you know, we may have never been looked at as a powerhouse program times in the past. Being able to do something right now is huge. Is really, really big. Not having the same opportunities for whatever reason. You know, Iowa State not having as much money as flowing down through, Norman, Oklahoma and Texas and the rest of those, places and stuff like that. Not given the same opportunities, but to have the opportunity now to compete and be the victors more times than not is really, really, really big. I loved it. I loved, facing up against Kansas, people saying, how good they were and things like that. And like I told you guys before, once we went down to Lawrence to play, at Allen Fieldhouse, I didn't feel like we weren't going to win that game. I knew it was going to be a hard-fought game, but I felt like the outcome was going to be what the outcome was. And these guys feel the exact same way.
It's funny that Matt Campbell has quite frequently used the term of it's about being the best version of ourselves. Has this team reached that stage, or are they now the best version of themselves?
I think you'd have to ask them that. I've used that phrase or similar to that phrase. I was taught that from Ed Thomas from when I was in sixth grade. And, you never – I'll just go from my perspective, and I'm sure Marcus is going to say something along those lines as a competitor that he is or we all are. I think we do that, and yet we always go back and go, but I could have been better. I could have done better. And the true competitor in each and every one of those kids will tell you you'll never get to that point because you can always feel like I could have gotten that much better. I was with my sales teams and everybody else I talked to them about. Can you get 1% better? I always talk about what's it and what's at 212. Water at 211, nothing happens in it. 212, you're sending ships around the world and trains across the country. That 1 degree, that one little something else, it all matters. And so, yeah, you strive to be. Once you hit it and you're there, I mean, I guarantee you, in that season of 2000 or 99 or whenever, you knew there was a time that you could have done one more thing, right, Marcus? I just, right. As a competitor, I'm sure every one of them has tried, but they know they've got more in the tank. I think today's announcement of the fact that you're not good enough to be all conference is just another piece of wood on the fire. It's fuel. It's whatever it needs to be. I am so fired up that they're going to have that opportunity to take to field with it.
Well, what's the difference between a temperature of 211 and 212, right?
Exactly.
It's boiling and vapor.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all it takes is that additional degree. So, again, we are in the Big 12 championship game, our second appearance, and I think it's going to be our first 11 o'clock kickoff, believe it or not. The entire season, is it possible we've gone the entire year without an 11 o'clock kick?
That's crazy.
I didn't know the game was that early.
It's kind of it's
Marcus,
kinda
you'll be
neat.
rolled right out of bed.
It's kind of neat because before that's all we were, was
What? Yeah, the 1 o'clock.
yeah.
Right? Remember the days of 1 o'clock?
Now there's a reason why we're on there. There's a reason why people want to put us in that time slot, and I think that's kind of cool.
And of course, if we win, I think we all know what that means. We could start talking the potential for college football playoff. And one question I've been asking around work. Okay, first we have to take care of business, and I want to come back to the game a little bit. But where would you prefer to go play? Would you prefer to play at Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, or Georgia?
Penn State.
Really?
Out of those four?
Yeah.
Out of those four, I mean, whoever's going to get Ohio State is about to get a buzzsaw from that loss against Michigan. Notre Dame.
I don't think they're that good. I don't think they're as good as they have been.
Ohio State?
Yeah.
Maybe after this first round, but I think this first round game, Tennessee is about to see something. So
I don't think Tennessee's that good either. I think Tennessee's a flawed team as well. I think there's a lot of flawed teams in this Southeast Conference, and the fact that you got Alabama in there after they got boat raced by Oklahoma 24-3, that in and of itself ought to keep them out of this thing. But it's not going to because they got the Alabama name. I'd agree. Probably Penn State would probably be the best place for us to go into. I mean, it's probably the most. Man, it's definitely a difficult.
Georgia's an NFL team, so you definitely want to see them.
Yeah, you don't want to see
round at all.
Well, and I've been asking people just ratably what their thoughts are, and I've heard pretty much every scenario. I guess I would lean on. I like that Ohio State pick. Only that while I would hate to play in the horseshoe, I think that Matt Campbell being from Ohio, I think that would play into what he wants, and he would have something to prove. And I think that the Ohio State offense, particularly at the quarterback position, has been a bit inconsistent at times, and I think that would help out from a Iowa State perspective. Now, I think the rushing game I would have concerns with, but I think the quarterback play would give me some pause.
I think Clemson's going to beat SMU, and I think we're going to beat. My personal opinion, I think we're going to boat race Arizona State, and I could see us jumping up to a 4 seed.
I'd love to hear that.
SMU is not going to beat Clemson. It ain't going to happen.
No, so it's just.
So how are they? You can't put a 10-3 Clemson team conference champion over 11-2 Big 12 team when they're behind us right now in the standings.
But does any of this make sense? I mean, you just talked a little bit about Alabama. They've not had that good of a year. They played a bunch of poor teams. They have a barely above 500 conference record. I'm sorry, I don't think that Alabama really has deserved to be in this playoff, other than their name.
Tell me something that ESPN has taken a hold of that's been successful. They've ruined everything.
Pardon the interruption. I love that show.
Yeah. Well, I will give them this. The one thing that they have done a great job of is the V Foundation.
Yeah.
That is, and this week happens to be the Jimmy V week. But other than that, when they've had a sport, they've ruined it. Hockey, college basketball, college football, pro football, everything they do, they figure out a way to make it stupid.
And Keith, I want to I'm probably leading you into this a little bit, but
there you go.
We talked a little bit. I think you'd shared a little bit with our producer, Chris Shipley, that the concept of this breaking up the NCAA into divisions rather than the conferences, which I think to a lot of us, it makes a hell of a lot of sense, but you're talking big money. And I just do not see some of these conferences saying, oh yeah, we want a part of that.
So here's where I'll go with this thing. Somebody, a guy that's a very dynamic personality that has led multi-billion dollar enterprises, a guy that's got a truly a business mind should sit down and go into Amazon, to YouTube, and sit down with these folks and go, football is about 25-1 as far as revenue to basketball. That's basically a pretty solid data. The NC2A tournament in basketball is about $1.1 billion a year in revenue based on the TV contract. It's $8.8 billion contract. So Amazon and YouTube comes up and says, here's $80 million or $80 billion. Here's a 10-year contract for 80 schools. That's $100 million per year. Well, we're going to set it up as a district, and we're going to get rid of the conferences, and we're going to line it up. That's what it's going to take.
But conceptually, while I think a lot of the smaller teams definitely would sign up for it, do you really think that Notre Dame, who has their own network and are quite happy independent, the Ohio States, the Georgias, you think that they would, in Texas for that matter, do you think that it feels like they would be taking their own money and giving it to the smaller schools, where I just don't see that happening?
It's at $80 billion, you're looking at $100 million per year, not including their gate revenue or anything else. But that's a hard one to walk away from.
It is, but I think that they would rather have 60 to 70 million on their own and keep the little man down.
I think that's what's most important for them. And those programs like that, like it's not about sharing, because when you get to the sharing part, then the smaller groups get more competitive. Yep. They don't want to be more competitive, and as we can see, that's why Alabama is starting to NILs is changing the landscape of football, basketball, and all of that, and now they're not competing as much as they were before.
And we haven't done any of this yet.
Everybody was going to Alabama.
I'm sorry, and they're going to continue, and they're going to continue to fall to the middle, and you're going to see that they don't even, these top schools, I hate calling them that, the name brand schools, they don't even realize they're becoming mid, because they bring in a kid, he doesn't play, F you, I'm going to South Carolina. They go to South Carolina, he doesn't play, I'm going to Boston College. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Or even if they're playing and somebody else comes with a bigger deal, they boating anyway still.
Did you see, who was it that was just on? And they're talking that the freshmen are making 4 and 5 times the NIL money that starting seniors are making right now.
That's crazy. Well, and
89 college quarterbacks make more money than Brock Purdy.
And let's see how successful that was over the eastern side of the state with Cade McNamara, right? They paid him how much, and he played how many games? I mean, he just threw his first Division I or Power 4, Power 5, however you want to look at, touchdown pass, 4 games into their season. His first one.
What?
He got beat out at Michigan.
Yeah.
Wow. Come on.
So, but I do like your districts here. So I have to put the cheaters on because I can't see, but this would be a good district for us. Wisconsin, Nebraska, Tulsa, Minnesota, Kansas State, Iowa, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa State, Kansas. It feels like we could compete in that league.
You look through that thing, and I put this together, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We talked about this in 1993. I was on the Division III golf committee for the NC2A, and we had a meeting in Overland Park about different competitions. And we met at Overland Park, and we discussed the idea of a playoff, a 16 or 32 team playoff back in 1993. And the reason why it wasn't going to happen then was there was 300 college presidents that had Division I basketball, and 122 were college football, and there was 178 of them that were not going to vote for it. I think that group has been been split up. So that's why you're getting a few more, a few more people looking at different playoffs. This 12 team is stupid. I mean, Penn State has a better opportunity. If Penn State loses, they're in a better position than Oregon is for the win.
Well, and I don't know if you guys saw, but I think there was a scuttle or an article that maybe SMU is better off to pull out of their championship game to avoid losing and then being kicked out of the playoff, which I think is just asinine, but that's the reality of it, right?
Dave, do you know how they came up with strength of schedule or strength of record? What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, it's a formula that is to piss a bunch of people off. That's what it is.
I mean, Indiana is 61, and their opponents were 61 and 83.
Yeah, and they're number 10. Indiana's played nobody. Ohio State is the only team of caliber that they play.
And then take Ohio State out of it, and they're 51 and 81.
Yeah.
But their strength of schedule and strength of record is better than Iowa State's. How can that be? We're 73 and 71.
And remember, it was just 9 months ago where we went through this with the NCAA basketball. Right. And it was, Iowa State basketball got moved down a seed line because of the quality of opponents that we played pre-Big 12 schedule. Yeah. Well, that doesn't seem to matter here at all for the football. Not at all.
Crazy. But pissed off Thursdays.
That's right. All right. So if we win this game and make the playoff, is this the best Iowa State team? Yeah, can we say this is the best team ever? And we've seen some good ones.
Absolutely, I think so.
Yeah, I don't think there's any dispute in that. I mean, I don't know how you could even. I mean, it's the best. Yeah, I mean, it's by far the best. Well, not by far, but it's the best. The best record we've had. It's right there in front of you. You had 10 wins. We've never done that before.
No.
10 wins, yeah.
I
mean, records are made to be broken. It doesn't do anything against the past players, anything like that. I mean, it's I didn't win state championships in high school, lost like 3 years in a row. And there's been some teams since I've been gone that I think they've won 2 or 3 state championships at my high school, and those teams haven't necessarily been better. It just may have been that season and the lineup and the opponents. It's just different criteria and how it falls. If this team is better or this other team is better, you can say that. But I mean, to date, we hadn't had a football team that has gotten 9 wins, 10 wins, and history. And if they when they pulled this one out, it's easy to say. Even though we feel like Brock Purdy is arguably the greatest quarterback in Iowa State history, he's not on this team, but this team has achieved more, and you can't deny that.
Yeah, 100%.
Is this the most important game in our football history on Saturday?
Yeah, till 2 weeks from now. Yeah, I agree. I think no question about it. I mean, it's right ahead of when we played in the Big 12 championship 2 years ago or 4 years ago against Oklahoma.
I thought that was a pretty important game, and then we followed back up with the Fiesta Bowl win against Oregon. I thought those were 2 really big games back to back.
Yeah, we had a great team that year. Maybe we underperformed in some respects in that game, but I'm not sure. I don't think maybe this team is where they're at without that team being where they were at. I mean,
I think as a team and coaching staff too, right? I think a lot was learned.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that I've got to become pretty good friends with Coach Mouse. And
you play video games with him?
No, I don't I'm not a video game guy. I had a hard enough time I had to get in this thing for about half hour early just to make sure I was getting on the damn thing. I am not a technical savant at all.
Because that's how you scout Iowa State is you got to go in and play the NCAA football because Mouse is pulling in plays from that game.
And he uses them based on some of the shit he's throwing out there. It's pretty awesome. I mean, I'll send a text him like, what the hell was that? He goes, you like that one? I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. That was good stuff.
It's been a great year for Mouse. First year being an offensive coordinator, he had the baby, and now first 10-win season. So successful year for the Mauser family in all.
Yeah, he's a super guy.
So one of the things, I pulled this from the Cyclone football website or Twitter page, probably Twitter page, which I think makes it legal and safe for our social media. But we're really talking about two teams that are very comparable to one another. I know that, of course, the coaching staff always is very complimentary towards a team, even if they're not a very good team. But clearly, Coach Campbell has a lot of respect. And Coach Dillingham was named Coach of the Year for the Big 12. Arizona State was picked last and ended up being the number one team in this 4-team race to represent the conference in the Big 12 championship game. But, you're looking at two teams that are pretty comparable in passing and running. They do have a very talented running back who I think he's rushed for 1,400 yards. And then they are missing their top wide receiver, who gobbled up a lot of, I think, 75 passes for over 1,000 yards. No one is even close to him in terms of reception. So that's going to be a big hole that they'll have to fill. And really, Scadabo, that running back, is one that catches a lot out of the backfield. So I'm thinking we're going to see a lot of him running in the passing game.
And sorry to jump in on that, Marcus, if you've got something to go ahead. I just think if he got his ability to take the best part of your game away from you is outstanding. And that 3-3-5 defense is, I was an offensive coordinator for 7 years, and we played against a couple teams that ran it. And it is a living bitch to prepare against. And it's so, they make adjustments so good. I just see him dialing it up. I see him really getting into his guys' ears about, you are not an all Big 12 player. You're an all Big 12 defense, but you aren't an all Big. I can see him getting in their ears. I can see him really dialing it in. I personally think that they're going to match him up pretty tight 1-0 with man coverage around the horn and force him to try to run on a 9-man front. From Big Orange to Bo Freiler, I think it's going to be a great challenge for us, but I think we're going to rise up. I really think it's going to be I think we'll shut them down.
And we've got some returners. Jack Sadowski, I think, is getting closer to being at full health. And so we're seeing more steady linebacker play in these last couple of games. And you're right, having Big Citrus in the middle like that, boy, that helps out a ton.
Oh, yeah. That he's a beast. Kind of like when the big fella down here was in the middle of roaming that lane for us. Holy Jesus. Stop that. Thank you very much. I got to apologize for you, Marcus. I lived in Indiana during the times that you were there, and then I moved to Buffalo, New York. And the only game, I hate to say this, the only game that I saw you guys play was against Michigan State. Were you on that team?
Unfortunately.
That's the only game I watched that whole year.
That's funny because Marcus still hasn't seen that game.
I've never rewatched that game ever.
I feel bad, but they didn't show Iowa State games back then. And if they did, I was either working or I was coaching or doing something. I couldn't get to see it. So the only game I saw was a loss. I still blame myself for that. I know I don't have that power, but I still blame myself for it.
So of course,
that's one. If we could have got past, we definitely feel like we would have been holding up the trophy.
That was a national championship.
That was the national championship.
Yeah. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
14-2 fouls in the second half. Are you freaking kidding me? Don't get me started.
Keep bringing them all down. Bring them back.
So, Keith, you talked a little bit about that defense, the 3-3-5. That's something Cincinnati has been adopting, and Arizona State actually lost to Cincinnati. Now, they didn't have their quarterback, Sam Levitt, playing for them at the time. Any takeaways that perhaps either team will have, knowing that A, they've seen it once against Cincinnati, and B, they did have their quarterback with them.
They lost to Texas Tech also, right?
Yes, they did.
And I believe Texas Tech plays a lot of that same defense as well. So I don't like that. I mean, they've had twice where they've seen it, but you've also John Heacock is something, man. That guy's he's got like the magic pixie dust on it, because he seems to be able to adjust pretty quickly, in-game adjustments. That tells you how smart the kids are. Tells you how smart the coaching staff is.
Yeah.
They make adjustments. I mean, the second half, I would love to see a stat over the last 5 years of our defense in the first half and what our defense does in the second half in every game. And other than maybe a couple games, I guarantee it's the points are a lot less. But I like our spot with it. I really do.
And
Marcus,
if they attach my blood pressure spike on the first half and the second half, you can definitely see the correlation in the two.
Right.
So, Keith, we have some phenomenal text exchanges going on during games, whether it's basketball or football. Marcus usually has some very specific comments. Marcus,
right.
what are your keys to the game on Saturday for you?
For me, I really, really feel like losing the Texas Tech game and the Kansas game really, I mean, because the guys know they're good. I think that really woke them up to be like, hey, this thing can be over really, really fast. We didn't lose those games we didn't get blown out or anything like that, even though the Kansas game felt like it was a blowout. Texas Tech was close until the end. Like, those type games really make you understand, okay, now it's lock-in time, and just stay locked in from the top to the end. Just understand, taking the progressions throughout the quarters, after quarter to zeros are on the clock. And if you do your job, like we said, it's fun watching the defense do their thing. There was time before we got, like an interception or a fumble and stuff like that. We're like, oh, they're going to score. But like now, my wife used to say something about, oh, man, I was like, no, we're finna get that back. It's a really, really good feeling to have that feeling. So I think if they lock in the way, we've locked in all season except for those two games, we still almost pull them out. Once the momentum is gone, in any sport, it's hard to get it back. But we're still in those games close to the end. And we've done well these last couple of games. And I think, playing under the big lights down there in Dallas is going to do well for us.
Speaking of Mouse and speaking of the offense, I think one of the keys for us, besides Heacock doing what he's going to do, is when we have that opportunity to go up 10, we have that opportunity to go up 13, or, maybe the opportunity going up maybe 16 or 17 points, to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And then to push them out of that ability for them to just be able to be that running football team and force them to be into a throwing environment a little bit more, maybe speed them up a little bit on offense. I think that's going to play real big into our hands. So I think it's going to be pretty critical that, the first couple times that the offense has the ball, we go down, put some points on the board right off the bat. Maybe get a stop here, maybe get a turnover, and then putting points up right away off of it. I think that'll be really, really important. Get them playing a little bit behind where they want to be. They want, if they can just run Scatabo and continue to play action off of it, that could be the longer we keep him in the game, the harder the game's going to be, because he gets stronger as the game goes along. That dude is a beast. Holy cow. That guy's a real player right there.
Well, and Coach Campbell described him earlier this week as a second coming of David Montgomery, and there's a lot of comparisons between the two.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that's a good point right there. I was just watching David on TV.
Yeah,
had another touchdown tonight. So,
Well, and you're right. Getting off to a fast start is going to be important, and that was huge against Kansas State because we got that turnover almost right away, first or second play of the game. Got that fumble recovery, and then we were able to take it in for a touchdown. You could just feel the crowd got energized, got crazy, got into it, and I don't know that Kansas State was ever really able to recover.
And who was the expert, the replay expert referee? He was like, it was obviously a forward pass. It was not a forward. That was obviously where was he coming from on that? I thought maybe I had drank too much Revelton before that game. And I rewatched it today, and it was very obvious that it was not a forward pass. But it was close, but, the call is right.
I think that there were maybe 5 people in the stands that felt it was a forward pass, and they all
had purple on or black and gold. How many black and gold idiots were at our game that night?
I can't say that I remember seeing any, to be honest with you.
There were a few. They're always there. Those clowns.
So I sit on the west side of the stadium. I don't know that we saw any over there.
Yeah.
But it was also cold, and they may have not been wearing their Hawkeye gear. So I would agree. Turnovers are, that's going to be a big key. We got to get up early. If we do that, I'm going to be feeling pretty good because I agree. If you take the running game away from Arizona State, I think that freshman quarterback, while very talented, I think he's going to make some errors, and having their big gun at wide receiver out is not going to do them any favors whatsoever.
Have you heard how many tickets have been sold for this thing?
I have not.
I got to believe it's going to be pretty heavy Cardinal gold.
I have to as well.
Well, they're red and gold too, aren't they? So I got to believe it's going to be pretty heavy Iowa State.
Well, and I'm getting. What's that, Marcus?
So they're like a maroon or something, right?
Yeah. Are you going into the game, Marcus?
I'm thinking about it. Like I said, someone told me that the game was early, and I said, I didn't know it was that early. I think they told me 9:00, but I guess it was here, so I guess they were telling me.
Yeah, 9:00 your time. Right?
So you're thinking 9:00 p.m., weren't you?
Because I said I don't have to go on Friday. Oh, no. I was thinking a.m.
Okay.
I was thinking a.m. But I'll have to leave.
We'll be at Texas Live at noon on Friday. You show up, I'll buy you a drink.
There we go.
At noon on Friday, it wouldn't be that early.
Yeah. Well, we'll be there all night, just in case you're wondering.
So everyone find Keith Shruggy. He's going to tailgate with you and get you in. I feel I have some serious FOMO. So my son and I went down 4 years ago during COVID when they barely let anyone in, but it was a cool experience nonetheless. You're right. We had a chance at the end of the game, and I just felt like with everything going on with work, it's kind of tough to get down there. But if someone were to somehow convince me to drive down there, I would seriously think about still coming down, getting in a car on Saturday or a Friday night or Friday morning and heading down. So you may still see me.
A picture of when we were there.
I have to get on the plane. I'm not gonna make that drive.
Yeah, right. My flight's at 7 a.m. tomorrow. I get to Dallas at 8:25, and it'll be game on.
All right, so we're going a little bit long tonight, so I apologize to everybody. We need to take a quick time out here and hear a word from our sponsor. Let's see if I can find the commercials here. This is what happens when you have me in charge of our media here. Otherwise, we may not be able to go to a commercial break. Oh, here we go. All right, let's hear a word from Revelton Distilling Company. Sorry about that.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. When energy meets precision, anything is possible.
I'm Carter Hawley, the Chief Energy Officer of the Iowa State Cyclones. I'm full of energy on and off the court, but nothing gives me more energy than helping families find their dream home. And that's where Green Beret Realty comes in. They're more than just realtors. They're a team dedicated to getting things right for you and your family, just like we get it right on the court. Sometimes it takes a team to get the call right. And when you're buying a home, you want a team that makes all the right calls. That is Green Beret Realty. And here's the best part. When you buy or sell a home through Dan at Green Beret Realty and mention this ad, he'll make a donation to the We Will Collective, helping student athletes like me thrive on and off the court.
Green Beret Realty, because getting the call right means everything.
All right, we are back, and we have guests tonight, Keith Schrage, former player for Iowa State back in the early to mid 80s. And of course, Marcus Fizer, the legend, is with us as well. You know, I saw Kevin Eggleston had responded earlier to some of our comments that you never stayed warm in that stadium.
Big Max.
Very true.
Big Max. He's on a text group of, we got like 13, 14 of us on the text group during games, and his comments are quite humorous at times. So
and then here's another smart ass. I'm sure it's Chris Shipley, who's the other guy.
Shipley. I don't know why he's saying about that about you, Marcus. What the fuck is that?
Ooh.
Hey, he already know who this old guy is.
I got socks older than you.
You know, the great thing is about these cold weather games is the fact that it doesn't matter what size of bottle of Revelton that you have. No one's going to see it under all those multiple layers. That's for sure.
I had a big bottle of it the other night. I was going to go get it and have some tonight, and I'm like, shit, I drank it all. Here's the guys that I was with. I don't know if you can see it at all.
Yeah,
I didn't send it to you, but we were at the suite at the AT&T Stadium.
Nice.
4 years ago. We're in the same suite this coming Saturday. Same guys. We're getting the band back together, so should be a great time. There's 4 guys that were 1 year older than me, and then 4 guys in my class. So we're really fired up about that. It's going to be a great time. Half of them are there right now. They're getting their game face on right now. So
that is awesome. So, all right. I think this one caused a lot of uproar over social media, but that Cyclone scripted jacket or the bomber jacket that Coach Campbell was wearing, I have been looking all over for it. Isn't that thing a thing of beauty, though?
I need that. I might have to call the football office and say, hey.
So I was talking to Mouse, and I'm like, I need a double X, and tell me I don't care what it is, just get it to me. He goes, from what he said, it's like one of a kind. There's like certain coaches across the country got their different coats. And I think Ohio State had one, and a couple other people had coats very similar to that. And it was kind of scheduled that way. I'm just fired up that they're using that Cyclone script. That was a Jim Walden era. And I was fortunate enough to coach with Jim Walden for 2 years. And that's I love that logo. That's fantastic.
I could find the bomber jacket
right now, working on.
Yeah. See, let us know if you can find it, Marcus. I found the bomber jacket itself, exact jacket, except for instead of the Cyclones across the script, it just has the I-State logo, a smaller one in the opposite corner or opposite chest of where the Nike logo is. So it's out there, but just not the special edition one, which is beautiful.
They'll sell a lot of it.
Yes, they will. All right, let's talk a little bit about basketball.
Come on.
Everyone watched the game last night against Marquette?
I didn't. I didn't get to watch it till this morning. I was on an airplane coming in from New York to Indianapolis, so I didn't get to see the game. My boss is a Marquette graduate, and I'm obviously an Iowa State guy, so I'm one up on him now. So I got a dinner out of it.
So this is a scene from inside the
Really, really
stadium.
good game.
White out.
Jamal Tinsley told me he was going to the game. I didn't know if he made it or not. I got to reach out to him.
Yeah, that was.
I wonder if he made
You
it.
see that you're looking at the basketball hoop there at the far end, and you go up to the right in the kind of that mezzanine level right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In February 8th, 1983, Kevin Eggleston, myself, Kirk Thomas, and I believe Kent Anderson were sitting in the first 4 seats there, right there. You know what happened on that night, Marcus? February 8th, 1983.
No.
Is that LaFester?
February 8th, 1983, Iowa State 16-13 beat Missouri with 3 first-round draft picks on it, and it was the night that Hilton Magic was born.
Ooh.
Ah.
All right, tell us the
I
story
heard
on that
that.
one.
So Mizzou
heard
comes in,
83.
they're number 10 they're number 10 in the country. We're 16-13, right? And we got Barry Stevens is playing for us, Ronnie Harris is playing, Ron Virgil, Jeff Hornacek, David Moss, Sam Hill. No, Sam wasn't there. Can't remember a couple of the other guys that were on that team. We weren't good, but 2 years later we were really good. And Barry had a shot at the end of the half that he made. He had a shot at the end of the regulation that he missed that would have won the game, and then he made a shot at the end of first overtime for us to beat him. He scored 41 points. We beat him 73-72. Barry had 41 points, and there was no three-point line. There was maybe 10,000 people in the stands, but it was raucous and it was crazy. So, real quick story. That summer, Steve Stepanovich had shot himself accidentally with something like grazed his leg or something. I don't remember what it was, but when he gets introduced to the game, there was about 6,000 people that stood up, and we were firing off cap guns.
Nice.
We were freaking nuts, dude. It was awesome. And every time Norm Stewart would stand up, and Norm Stewart was known for walking up and down the court, as soon as he would stand up, it was probably 10,000 people started chanting, "Sit down." We weren't watching the game. "Sit down, Norm." Oh my God. But yeah, that was the night that Hilton Magic was born. I know they credit it years later to some guy in the Register or something that said something about it, but that was before, if you think about it, in 1983, they were number 10 in the country. That was before NC State beat Houston. That was that year. That was before Villanova beat Georgetown. The upsets in college basketball didn't happen back then. It just didn't happen. And all of a sudden, I don't know how much you know. I'm sure you've heard the stories about Barry Stevens. But if that guy had been playing in today's game, he'd be Steph Curry before Steph Curry. The dude was unbelievable. He was unbelievable.
He was a walking bucket.
Huh?
He was walking buckets.
Oh my God. It was unbelievable. And I'm sure you saw the highlights of him. Then, he brings in Jeff Greer because Jeff Greer's dating Barry Stevens' sister. You got Jeff Hornacek on the team. I mean, you had some players, man.
Yeah.
You had some players.
That was a story.
One of my best friends is Lefty Moore. I'm sure you've seen enough of Lefty.
I talk to Lefty all the time on Facebook.
He's still up there. He's still up there. That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry to get sidetracked on that.
No, what did you think of the new guy wearing 51?
Shit, man, I go to war with that dude, huh?
Well, he looked like he's been he's second game in a row where he's been beat up and hit in the face.
I love that guy. Everything about that team. They just bite your face off. I love it.
I told the story before on this pod that I coached him the first time I coached against Keyshawn. He was in junior high here. He's not originally from Vegas. He's originally from Kansas City, but he played. I've been coaching against him since he was a little kid. And he got an older brother that's I think he's about a year older than him, a year or two older than him. And both of them was real tough. His brother is probably about 2 inches taller than him. And if he would have got those 2 inches, my goodness. But they just some tough kids. And I remember the whole game, he was scoring on us. He was talking shit the whole game. And so, like, his dad was mad at him from like, talking shit to me the whole game. And I told his dad, I said, man, I like that. That kid is going to be real nice. This is literally 7-8 years before he got anywhere close to being a collegiate athlete. And to, have to see him one day in the Iowa State jersey is, one of the funnest things to ever witness, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's
if he would have got 53, Mike Nurse 53, then that would have been
Well, it was funny. It was funny watching him in that 51 because that's exactly what I thought. I thought of Mike Nurse. You just don't see guards wearing the 50 number at all.
When Mike Nurse came in and he got 53.
Was Nurse is he coaching Toronto?
I don't know where he's coaching at. Is he?
Wasn't
coaching?
he at Toronto though at one time? Toronto Raptors?
No, I don't think so. No, he has a smoking, like a meat business back in Jersey.
So who was the guy from Iowa that was the coach at Toronto? Wasn't there a Nick?
Oh, Nick Nurse.
There's Nick Nurse. We're talking about Mike Nurse.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mike Nurse.
Yeah, Nick Nurse is what? Head coach of Philadelphia now?
Yeah, two different spectrums of people. I guarantee.
Gotcha.
I guarantee.
Who, Nick Nurse? Nick Nurse was our basketball coach for about 5 days back before. I think when Fred was either hired or when Fred left, I think Nick Nurse stepped in for a temporary basis.
So Nick Nurse was at Iowa State though for a little while.
As a coach, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Where do you play
I didn't
basketball?
know that.
Yeah. Nick Nurse, didn't he go to UNI? Was it UNI
I think
guy?
that's right.
He was on one of those. I want to say he's in like the 87 team, 89 team for the Panthers.
Gotcha.
So it's been fun watching this team. They took down Marquette last night, 81-70. I think it's been interesting to watch. These. We talked about it before about the rotation. I don't know that rotation is set, but TJ seems to be playing different mixtures even now against these high caliber teams, and we're seeing success. I mean, we're talking about number 5 team in the country that has aspirations for a Final Four, and I think that we handled them pretty well, and we're still blending as a team. This is still only our 6th game together.
Yeah,
fun to watch.
I mean, of course, CJ is going to have them figured out and ready by the time conference begins. But that is just testament to the talent that we have, and I'm sure those practices are very intense. So once you get on the court, you try to figure out how to make it fun. Now, and scoring the ball is always fun. Anytime did Keyshawn have 18 points at the half against Marquette, so. To have those type of games you rolling, is definitely contagious.
He hits that 3-pointer, forget it. I mean, if they got to come out on him, oh Jesus! You talk about a whole new dimension. He just spreads that court even wider.
Right.
And Cujo out there hitting his. Jesus, they're fun to watch. It's fun to watch.
What did you think of that jersey, the classic jersey from last night? Marcus, how much?
I got the football one with the Psy on it with that same logo. That's from Marcus. Back in my day.
Marcus, how much would you pay to play in that jersey?
Man, that jersey is nice. My freshman year, like I said, my freshman year jersey were horrendous. Sophomore and then junior year was a whole lot better. But again, we were Adidas. I think those freshman jerseys were Russell, or they probably the football company, something crazy like that. But this right here, this whole setup.
You know how bad it was back in the early 80s? You know what basketball shoes they played with? You know what football shoes we had?
The bikey, right?
Pony. Freaking
I
pony
remember.
shoes. And it's like oh my God, they were horrible.
Oh, but everyone wanted them.
Oh. Yeah, they never had to worry about us stealing the shoes from the equipment room because they sucked. Oh my God, they were horrible.
Yeah, it was nice to see it break out these.
Yeah, I like that. I love that logo.
Totally agree. And it's
What do you
nice.
think about this logo? I know a lot of Iowa State people don't like that block I state. I think it's
I think this like my second favorite one. The side NATO is my favorite one. That's probably the second one. The one on the jersey now, that wasn't around at all much. Like I'm seeing it now, like, oh, that's a cool little logo. Yeah, I'd never seen that on nothing while I was there.
yeah, that's
like baby sire or something.
yeah.
Well,
That's,
Keith,
that's
we
kind of-
we have that discussion a lot on this podcast. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite? Do you have a favorite logo?
well, I played during the time when it had the Iowa State written here with the tornado coming out of it, and I always liked that logo. It was such a dark time for Iowa State athletics during those days that especially on the football side of things, it's hard to resurrect a logo that's kind of resonated with a bad period of time with football. I love the script Cyclones that Jim Walden brought in. I think that's just an outstanding logo. I'm old school.
Yeah, walking.
I love the walking sigh. I'll be wearing that, on Saturday.
But you played in those teams then that wore the multicolored helmets, right? Where half the team wore gold and the other, you had select players wear the red, right? If they earned it.
Our coaches were so smart at the time, Marcus.
Oh, cool.
If you did exceptional things and you were a great player, they were like, we're going to put you in a red helmet. So now when the defense lines up, they're going to go, well, there's a guy with a red helmet. We'll just shift our coverage to Tracy Henderson and Dave Smoke. You talk about being stuck on stupid. Jesus Christ, no wonder we couldn't win games. We're just telling them, here's where our best players are.
It's not like the Buckeyes on Ohio State helmet.
Yeah.
I think that would be something cool to do. I mean, for like our guys with the logos and stuff that we have, even like a little tornado, or whatever it is, the logo is to do something like that for them. But
yeah, I like the block eye. It's a recognizable logo. People know it. I fly a lot. I'm in an airplane every single week. And whenever I'm flying home, I've always put on my colors. And invariably, every flight, they'll say something. I was in Toronto, and they knew that Nick Nurse was at Iowa State, and they recognized that logo. Toronto, Canada. I'm in LaGuardia. They recognized it. I was in LAX, and son of a gun, there had to be 25 Iowa State people in there, and we were having just an absolute hooting time. I mean, it was great. And we all had on the similar logo, but it's recognized,
So what are your thoughts being a former player with the black?
So our original colors were black, with silver and whatever. Kids love it. They're 13-4 in them.
They look good. They look
great. The kids love them. I don't care whatever it takes to give you that other gear, then God bless them. I'd like to see them blend in maybe a little cardinal gold into it. Maybe not the gold, but maybe the red outline in it, or a red and the cardinal and white outline in it or something. But I love the Jack Trice bars. I think they're fantastic. I wear that a lot I have the black and white Jack Trice bars, and I have a lot of people recognize that on an airplane, which is really cool. I think it was it 86 when we named it Jack Trice Field? I know I was either playing or I was coaching when they did that. And I think it was 86 when they did that.
So I was a student between 90 and 94, and that was an annual thing where the students were trying to get the administration to rename the stadium.
The stadium.
And I don't know that it had been changed then, but I don't remember.
It was Cyclone Stadium, Jack Trice Field.
Is that what it was?
And I think it was 86, 85, 86. I'm an Iowa State nut. So I growing up, Dr. Stickley took me to my first game when I was 12 years old. Dr. Stickley was a veterinarian in town. And my first game, I saw Tom Bosky absolutely destroy Utah. Absolutely. I think he had 20 tackles and 2 fumble recoveries, a sack, and a couple and a pick or 2. He just absolutely destroyed. I just fell in love with Iowa State, and I wanted to know everything about it. So I knew the story of Jack Trice long before we ever did any of that stuff. I dove into that stuff, and that's with looking up things in media guides and looking up things in different books. You didn't have the internet, obviously. I'm older than the internet.
Well, the media guys is how I fell in love when Iowa State. So same scenario.
Yeah.
So Keith, what did you think when Marcus announced that he was coming? Our first McDonald's All-American. What were your thoughts when that was announced?
So that would have been what, 96, 97?
97, 98.
97. So I was in Indiana, and I was coaching at that time, and I didn't follow anything. I couldn't follow anything, and any sports that you would see back then, they had Big Monday and stuff, but I was recruiting, and I basically never saw Iowa State basketball games from 1990 to 2004. So I missed that era in there. And like I said, the one game I got to watch. And sorry about it, Marcus. It's my fault. I love Iowa State basketball. I love Iowa State basketball as much as I love Iowa State football. I sat 2 rows behind Johnny Orr for 5 years when I was a student, because back then you could get tickets from the ticket office, and they had seats that were behind the basket for the athletes and in the first 2-3 rows right behind the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Those were fantastic times. And back, I don't know, how much did you interact with the football players when you played, Marcus?
A ton. A lot of us were in the same dorms.
Gotcha.
Definitely same dorms. A couple of us was on the same floor. And, me being football is my favorite sport. I know you know that, Keith.
I did. I've watched your guys' podcast many times.
So I've always, interacted with the guys. I had a little jealousy and envy, wanted to be out there a little bit. I think I mentioned it to Tim Floyd a couple of times, and he gave me the story about Andy Stensrud, who I kept telling him how, cold it was outside, and Tim kept saying, see, Andy doesn't even really want to be out there. So just go in and stay here. So, but yeah, I talk to the football guys a whole lot. Talk to them, a lot of them, now me and Jesse Beckham, we talk all the time, Reggie, and a whole lot of the other guys on social media all the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's such a camaraderie between, I think, throughout the Iowa State culture. Mm-hmm. It has always been that way. We've always, You see all these shirts out there. It's, Michigan versus the world. Give me a flipping break. Ohio State versus the world. Fuck you. That is not true. You want to talk about versus the world? Look at it. I mean, we beat somebody. We can't get on college damn game day.
Right.
Holy God. It's they stopped the Kansas, whatever. I just think that there's such a camaraderie and such a bond between the students, the student athletes, the alumni. I think Iowa State is such a special place. And I think people are starting to recognize it. I think you're seeing coaches that are sticking there around. I think Matt Campbell has seen something that there's a reason to be there, and it's bigger than him. And Otts is the same way. I think it's just a level of pride. I mean, I drive my friends down here crazy. I remember at one of the golf clubs here in town, and every week I'm mentioning something, and we're on our group meeting, and I'm like, we're going to get together for breakfast on Saturday, and I'm going to be at Dallas because we're playing in the Big 12 championship. You better watch it and kicking your ass. And, it's like, they get tired of hearing it, but you wear it with you wherever you go. I mean, to me, it's a very, very special place. And I knew it growing up and knew it when I was there. Love the teammates that I have and the friendships that we've developed. Oh my God, it's incredible. I wish I'd had a chance to watch you play more, Marcus. It was,
you didn't miss much.
It was a great time. I look forward to the day when maybe we're in the same place. I can shake your hand or buy you a drink or do whatever, because the camaraderie and the fellowship. And
that should be soon.
The greatest, one of the greatest slogans in any fight song ever is "Loyal Sons Forever True." It could not be more meaningful than what it is for Iowa State.
Absolutely.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic way to end the show. We've got a big game, Big 12 championship game. It's for all the marbles on Saturday, our opportunity to win our first Big 12 championship game. And with that, potential trip or likely trip to the college football playoff. Keith, it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Nice meeting you, brother.
So after Saturday's win, we're all going to go out, celebrate. And then Sunday, if I could put in just a quick plug, Sunday noon, the women play at home against Central Michigan. I tell you what, this is another special team. We are living in these remarkable times where we have such all-time wins in football. Our basketball team is fifth, sixth in the country, and just
got to be number one.
Probably, yep, number one.
Heading into Iowa City.
Yes. Well, both men and women next week. I think the women play on Wednesday at Iowa, and then on Thursday, the men play. I think I'm going to be in attendance on Thursday. I'm going to try to sneak in on Wednesday as well to watch the women play. But again, these are great times for us as Cyclone fans, and I want to thank you, Keith. Good to see you as well, Marcus. And that's been another edition of In the Side of the Storm. Let's go Cyclones.
Awesome. Thank you.